Welcome back to the Parent Edit podcast in collaboration with Club Med. I am very honoured to have Kat Sims joining me today, or as you might know her, Not So Smug now. Kat, I think I've followed you for about 6 years.
Oh, thanks.
What's most exciting is that you've recently launched a book.
Yeah, should we get the promo out of the way first?
Let's do the promo.
Let's get that bit out of the way. So the book actually came out in June last year, but it's just been released in paperback yesterday. It's called The Mental Load Diaries, and I'm going to be 100% honest, I didn't want to call it that. It doesn't really tell the full tale. It does discuss the mental load, and that is important in it, but really it's about how I had to learn to communicate and behave differently in a relationship so that he didn't want to divorce me or I didn't want to divorce him. It was about saving my marriage and my mental health, and a discussion around the mental load was important, but it's so much more than that. And it's not a self-help book. There's probably no tips or tricks in there other than you will get comfort from reading about a story that will sound like yours. Like those times when you're so resentful of your husband, he just walks in a room and you want to punch him in the throat. You see, you're looking at me, she knows exactly what I'm talking about. And that constant like, why doesn't he just know? All of that stuff that is about the mental load but then turns into this like intense resentment, breeds like mold. So yeah, if that resonates, then The Mental Load Diaries is definitely a book that you should buy. And as much as I know that the audio version is great, they don't count towards bestseller sales. Just saying.
I actually had no idea.
I know, I was so frustrated because also the New York Times bestseller list counts audiobook sales, but the Sunday Times bestseller list doesn't. And for a book that's aimed at busy women struggling to manage the mental load, who are probably going to listen to it while they manage the mental load,
to read a book.
We missed out. So buy the audio, but then also maybe buy a paperback and gift that to a friend.
I mean, if that doesn't tell a tale about women not being seen in the world, I don't know what does, because it's the nap walk, the nap drive, or the before bed or the middle of the night feed where you're reading your book.
And in general, I would say, and I don't know this, but I'm going to guess, women, I imagine, buy more books than men.
We hate to generalise.
But I'm probably not wrong.
A podcaster, a wife and mother of two. Eldest is 12, youngest is 9. So you've been doing this motherhood gig for a while now. Yeah. How prevalent do you still find the mental load and the need to check in with that part of life now? Because it can feel quite intense in toddlerhood, but needs change and evolve for children.
So 2 things. Firstly, it never ends. It just changes. It morphs into something else. But also I think that I found managing the mental load when they were toddlers infinitely harder, because actually what I've realised is that is not my strength as a mum, toddlerhood. They survived and we were fine. 0 to 6 months, great. Love that. Squidgy, they don't really move. They're gorgeous. They yum, yum, yum. They have that smell. 6 months to 4, I'm like, that's hard. It doesn't appeal to me. My husband was great with that. He loved toddlers. He can play tea parties for hours. The thought of doing like imaginative play for me is like nails down a board. And so toddlerhood for me was really difficult. And I think that impacted how hard the mental load was in general, because of course I felt like I wasn't a good mum, because I didn't enjoy this bit. Now they're older, I'm like, this is my wheelhouse. And my husband's like, I don't know what to do with them. Yeah. So I think it's really important to remember, especially if you're at the beginning of your journey like I was. Yeah. You know, I thought, God, maybe I'm just not meant to be a mum. And actually, I just wasn't great at that early bit. So if you're feeling like you're struggling, it gets better. And you may find that actually your strength as a mum comes slightly later on. The mental load is pervasive and relentless. But I do feel that in a lot of ways, I was my own worst enemy. And so part of the book is very much about unpacking that. And I think there's a lot of women who found it quite confrontational. They sort of expect it to be like, yeah, your man's rubbish and da-da-da. And actually a lot of it is looking for our part in it, which is how much actually are we enabling it? Are we controlling things too much? Are we reluctant to let go of stuff? Are we overthinking stuff because society tells us our house has to be perfect and our kids have to look perfect? I've learned to let go of a lot of stuff, which has been helpful.
It's really interesting perspective, because I think, as you say, women can often feel guilty for even seeking out things such as your book or a podcast on this, because they think it's hating on the person I've chosen. But actually, you're coming at it with a perspective of you play a part in this, and the sooner you can take responsibility or look at maybe what is and isn't working for you, you're only doing yourself a disservice in not doing that.
Yeah, listen, the mental load is, I mean, it is a relationship within a relationship, and 2 of you play a part in that. So I think it's a bit lazy of us to go, men just don't get it. I think none of us really get it, because we've all grown up watching a generation that still managed it very much along traditional gender roles. And yes, okay, you might have had a working mum, but like actually that working mum probably still came home and cooked dinner. We are very much in a position of breaking the cycles, but not really having the education or the experience of knowing what's better. And so I had to accept that I had been groomed as a woman from the moment I splashed down Earthside to take care of the mental load, because we traditionally as girls look to our mums for to model, right? And so that's what I saw her do. I also saw her be fluent in tutting, door slamming, and I'm fining. I never saw her sit my dad down calmly and say, I'm struggling, can you help me? I saw her wait until she got to crisis point, exploded. So that's what I brought into it, you know, and it was really confronting for me to go, oh, hang on a minute, maybe I'm not managing this. Maybe I'm relying on telepathy as like a viable form of communication when, trust me, it isn't. And also, I'm really angry at my husband for not being able to do what I'm doing, but also this like confusion because he's a really good guy and he wants to help. So what is the disconnect? And now he's like, at the end of the day, I had to accept that he had not received the training that I had implicitly received as a kid growing up, which was to manage the mental load. He hadn't. He'd seen his dad go out and work and earn and come home. And so that's what he learned. And that isn't his fault. It is now his responsibility to adjust and to learn and to do better. But it's also my responsibility to support that, not because I'm his mum and I'm looking after him, but because for the benefit of our family as a team, I'm going to write a list every now and again. And I'm not writing him a to-do list. I don't do that. What I do is I write a list of all the things that need doing. And then on a Saturday morning, I slap it down on the table and I put my initials next to the thing that I'm going to do. And I give everybody a pen and I go, you put your initials next to the things that you're going to do. I do that in the hope that my daughters don't have to do it when they're married to men or women, you know, whatever, you know, but I think that sometimes we can be our own worst. We can get in our own way and we can be a bit like, well, I don't want to do that. Why should I have to do that? I get it. I do get it. The resentment is real, but actually it's part of communicating in a healthy way. And I think that sometimes we need to let go of our resentments as women and look for the solution and like lean into a solution rather than hold on to those resentments.
I think society definitely demonizes men and there's a lot that you see online about it. Also just being like, oh, men just don't get it, as you say. And so it's easy to just go along with that.
I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say poor men, like we're not going to go that far, but let's not be silly. But I do think there isn't enough nuance in the conversation, especially in this sort of relationship dynamic of the mental load. I don't think there's enough nuance, you know, and I think that I didn't really recognize, in some ways, my husband had his own mental load, which was that of being a financial provider, you know, and he really worried about that in a way that I didn't fully understand. And so sometimes I think that society gets in between us. Don't worry about what society's doing. Don't worry about what you think equality looks like or whatever. It's like what actually works for your family. Also, sharing the mental load isn't always about doing it 50-50. For some people, it's like 100-0. Like some people that works. It's not about it has to be equally divided. That doesn't always work. But it is about whatever it is that you need to be able to have that conversation and those and communicate in a way that isn't sort of saddled with loads of sort of residual resentment and generational trauma.
Default parent. Do you think it's a bit of a cover-up for doing it all by yourself? I'm the default parent, so I list.
Yeah, I mean, I struggle with the term anyway. You know, I think that default parent, primary carer, I don't think it's helpful in any way. I mean, I'm in a unique position with my husband because we're both self-employed and my husband is a musician, so he goes on tour. So when he's on tour, I'm the only person there. But when he comes home, I basically am like, there's certainly a few days. He got home this morning, actually, after a month of being away. There's going to be a couple of days where I'm not even going to ask permission. I'm just going to get up and leave, walk out, and I've earned that. And that's fine. But we had to have long conversations about how to manage that dynamic because there was so much room for resentment. And it may be that the dynamic between somebody else is different. Maybe you're both working 9 to 5 or one of you's working 9 to 5. There's no what you should do in that. There's no like, well, if you're working and she's at home, then, you know, when you come home, you have to pay. There's no should. All there is you need to be able to have that conversation in a way that is vulnerable, that doesn't come from a place of resentment, and figure out what works for you. And you're not going to get it right all the time. But I have learned that I used to get really resentful because people were telling me that my husband should do this or their husband did that. And therefore, why wasn't my husband doing that? And at the end of the day, I had to sit down and go, what do I actually need him to do? What do I want him to do? And I had to ask him what did he need me to do and what did he want me to do? And I think sometimes as women, we can co-opt the mental load a little bit and go, well, it's my problem to manage and you're not helping. And actually, it is a problem that both of you have to take responsibility for, however you divide it up. But yeah, I don't think we need to be default parent and co-parent. I think whatever it is that works for you is parenting. But just because one person may not spend as much time doesn't mean that they're not an important parent or even a primary parent. You know, like I'm a primary parent to my eldest daughter in terms of her coming to talk to me. There are things she'll talk to me she will never speak to Jimmy about. So in that sense, I'm the primary parent, default carer, whatever it is. But then when it comes to like other things, he's hers. So it's not that simple.
How would you describe to someone who might be watching this being like, am I struggling with that? Or is this just normal parenthood? How would you describe the mental load in context of parenthood in general? This summer, stop planning and start living. Club Med's all-inclusive family resorts take care of everything from gourmet dining to kids clubs and water sports. So all you have to do is make memories with your little ones. One destination, every adventure you could possibly imagine. That's Club Med. Search Club Med Family Holidays today to find your next perfect family holiday.
For me, and I think for a lot of people, I think women have an incredibly high tolerance for anxiety. And I think that we don't realise how anxious we are. I think we often don't realise we're living in fight or flight 90% of the time. Yeah, and I think a lot of the times not stopping to question just how much we're struggling. I've had 2 quite significant burnout periods. We really do need to stop sometimes as women and really figure out exactly how we're feeling, because we plough on carrying this anxiety and doing a lot of stuff that we think is really, really essential and actually isn't necessary. You know, this idea of perfection, because the problem is as women, our value, doesn't matter how many glass ceilings we break, how many times we're allowed to vote, how many jobs we can have or whatever, it doesn't matter. Our value is worthless in the eyes of society unless we are effectively managing a home and a family. As soon as you're a woman that steps outside of that, you can be a CEO, but if you don't have kids, what? You're weird. If you've decided not to get married, well, that's weird. So as much as people are like, oh, well, you know, it's not that important, it really is. And we are still judged on that. And whether we are conscious of that or not, we live under that as women. And so being conscious of that and going, hang on a minute, I am playing into this expectation when actually I don't need to, because I don't care whether there are crumbs on the sofa. I don't care if the skirting boards have been cleaned. Like, it would be nice if they could be, don't get me wrong, but actually, would I rather sit down and play like Monopoly Deal? I say that because I'm obsessed with that game at the moment, with my husband and kids. I make them do it after dinner every night. I literally cannot stop playing. Or would I rather iron their shirts? In the history of modern parenting, has anybody said, can't believe you sent your kid to school with that creased shirt? No, I don't think they have. And if they have, then they are idiots. I was going to use a really naughty word then. Insert that word here. That's who those people are. Who are you pushing yourself for? Who are you stretching yourself for? If you genuinely believe that it is for the good of you and your mental health and your kids, and it's making your life better, giving real value, then yeah, crack on. But if actually it's just about worrying that if you don't do that, somebody's going to call you out or judge you or whatever, drop it. Or at least put it down for a bit. I talk about juggling the balls, and some of them are glass and some of them are plastic. And the glass ones, obviously you can't drop, right? But there's actually not that many of those. Ones you can't drop are like, you know, your kids need feeding and picking up from school. And in fact, I have dropped the picking up from school one occasionally. I'll be honest, there were times when I've had a phone call going, you're going to pick her up? And you know what? Everybody was fine. The world did not stop turning. And my kids were not traumatized. Well, maybe a little traumatized, but
temporarily.
Trauma makes you funny. And so it's really important. Those glass balls, yes, hold on to those. Are your bills paid? Anything else actually is a plastic ball. And if you drop it, it's like, oh, okay. That's fine. It just bounces, and then you can pick it up later if you want to, or not. Let it roll into the sofa and stay there.
Primarily, just generalising, why do you think it sits with mothers? It is that generation, isn't it?
Yeah,
right. We are the first generation who says, okay, we're going to do things a bit differently now.
Yeah.
And so it's like we take the responsibility for all the generations beneath us.
Yeah. And
I mean,
listen,
changing those standards.
I'm going to start with the good news. The good news is I'm really excited for our generation and what we're going to do, because we're the first generation of women who are looking after ourselves, doing therapy, breaking cycles, learning new habits, taking supplements, weight training, walking, looking after our mental health. You know, so God help whoever gets in our way in 10, 20 years' time. Like, I cannot wait for that. So as much as there's a lot to go, oh, it's exhausting, we are also really looking after ourselves in a way that women have never done before. So for that, I think it's really positive. It is learned behaviour. I think so much of our behaviour, good and bad, is a hand-me-down. Unpacking that in all walks of life is really important, but in the mental load, definitely. And getting your partner to do the same thing as well. Being like, look, I know I'm taking on all of this because that's what I've been trained to do, but you're not taking it on because you didn't see your dad do that. And we want to do things differently. How can we work this out? And I also think that fear of being judged as a woman, you know, we are in survival mode as women all the time. It is not given to us the privilege of going out for a job, or that is not a given. And so we have to recognize those things that we're holding on to out of fear of judgment or fear of it impacting our value in society or even in the family, and really let go of that and get conscious about when we're actually being controlling out of fear that the whole thing will fall down, because the whole thing will not fall down. We are really burning out. And, you know, this is not a nice statistic, but it's true. You know, the leading cause of death for women in their first year of motherhood is suicide. There is a reason for that. And it is this monumental pressure that society puts on us, which is like, well, you wanted it all, you've got it all, now do it all. And if you don't, then where's your value? And actually, we need to really kick back against that.
If you don't carve out those moments of rest or communication with your partner or sharing the mental load, sharing the jobs, sharing the daily tasks over time, like for you, what was the result of not being on top of that?
Apart from burnout, mental and sort of anxiety, severe anxiety, I mean, I ended up in the midst of a massive alcohol addiction. It will catch up with you eventually in one way or another. You might not end up an alcoholic like I did, but you may end up really struggling mentally. You will feel it, will resonate around the house and around that kind of family dynamic. It's not reasonable. It is too much. And also there's this whole weird myth that like parents between the 50s and 70s spent all this time with their kids and they nurtured them and they did all of this. And the reality is now, I think women spend something like 19.5% more time with their kids than any of those mothers ever did. And we're working largely, and we're in charge of, you know, whatever else it is that's going on. And so the reality is we are doing, to a certain extent, too much parenting. And I know that that sounds wild, but I do think that we are expected to be entertaining our children all the time.
Yeah,
to be like putting them in clubs all the time, paying for this, that and the other, and doing arts and crafts and baking with them. Like, baking with kids is awful. I'm sure there are mums out there who disagree and they have the patience of a saint, and I bow down in reverence to those parents. But the majority of us, it is not fun baking with children. It's not fun doing arts and crafts with children. And I'm not saying don't do it, but I am saying you don't have to be doing it all the time. You do not. Sometimes you can just take them to a park and let them run free.
If you've ever wanted a family holiday where everything is sorted, from the food to the dining to the kids clubs, then Club Med is it. From snorkeling to archery to canoeing, it's perfect for families looking to disconnect and reconnect with each other away from those pesky screens. Check out clubmed.co.uk today and treat you and the family to a premium all-inclusive summer holiday today.
This was my biggest bugbear as a parent. I would get out of the house, I would take them to the park to provide them with things to climb on and slide down and swing on for their entertainment. And they still would not let me sit down on a bench. They'd be like, come and play. Mummy, watch. Mummy, watch. I'd be like, no, there is a playground here for you to play on, so that I don't have to do that.
But I don't remember my parents playing with me in that way.
They read the papers. Well, and if I got involved, they were like, I'm reading, I'm watching the cricket.
Games
whatever.
and toys at home were for you and all your siblings or your friends.
Totally.
They were never on the floor.
No. Never in a million years.
They would probably say, yes, we were.
No, they weren't. And that's fine. You know, I think maybe there's a balance.
Yeah, no trauma from that.
No trauma from that. But there's a balance. I think they could have perhaps done a little bit more. Yeah. But we definitely need to do less. And it's really difficult because, of course, now we've got all these screens. And so parents are like, well, if I'm doing less, then they're on screens. And then we feel guilty about that. And I'm not saying it's easy.
No.
But I am saying that it is something to really think about, you know, when it comes to protecting yourself.
Yeah.
Don't need to entertain your kids 24 hours a day. You just don't.
Yeah. My husband's favourite one is, what are we doing this weekend? And I go, living.
Yeah.
We're existing and our children are coming with us.
Yeah.
Because that's okay for them too.
We're not dragging them around like workhouses.
No.
It's not that you shouldn't do things with your children. Of course you should. But there is this expectation that we need to put all of our stuff aside and put the children in the middle of it. And for me, I just think that needs to be way more flexible. There are times when the kids are right in the middle of it and there are times when they're not.
Sure.
And even if that's you sitting down for a cup of coffee on a Saturday morning and them going, Mummy, I'm bored. And you going, I don't actually care. Like, I love you, but I'm having this coffee and I don't want to be interrupted. That is okay. It's really important.
Society is definitely pushing us down a lane of parental burnout on top of holding down careers, paying the bills, trying to sustain a marriage.
Also, I don't think it's any good for the kids. Like, I see kids all the time exhausted. My husband is the worst for this, and he won't mind me saying this, wants to entertain them, keep them moving. If they dare to sit down and like play on the Nintendo Switch or watch a television show, he's like, they're always on the telly. I'm like, they've literally just sat down. They don't get a minute from the moment they wake up on Monday morning until the moment they come home on Friday. They don't get a minute. You know, I think we can forget that these kids are entertained, engaged all the time at school. They're running around, then they're doing the clubs or whatever it is that we have to do for them, because that's helpful. Don't get me wrong. I love an after school club. Whatever keeps them entertained is great. But like, they also need to sit down. And that is sometimes in front of a screen. That's okay. We have a duvet day every now and again. And I have to basically restrain my husband. I'm like, I don't care if they watch television all day today. I don't care.
This is giving me hope, Kat, because I haven't had one since before I had a child.
But yours is still little. I mean, you've got a 14-week-old out there.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And a nearly 3-year-old who doesn't stop moving from the minute she gets up.
Absolutely the worst possible place. You've got a toddler and a newborn. I mean.
Quite tired.
Yeah, that's horrendous.
Best years of your life, Kat. They're the best years of your life.
They're not the best years of your life.
Soak them up.
No, it's all
Instagram
nonsense.
tells me to enjoy every minute because it goes so fast.
Well, Instagram's bollocks. And also, you don't have 18 summers, because I've got friends whose kids are like 27 and still at home. So
yes, I love that one.
And also, even if I do only have 18 summers, I'm like, that's enough. That's great.
Well, I'm 30 and I just came back off holiday with my in-laws, so I don't intend on stopping that anytime soon.
No, exactly. I mean, all of this nonsense about you kids are only young once and these are the best times of your life. How is that helpful? It's not helpful. And it's not about saying you shouldn't be grateful and you shouldn't appreciate stuff. Of course you should. But it's so thrown down your throat that we get to a point where you feel like you can't go, I'm actually not enjoying this bit, or I'm struggling with this. Because then you're branded some terrible mother, you know, and somebody's like, how dare you say that? Whereas, I remember bringing my baby home and being like, you'll never feel a love like it. And it's the most magical feeling in the world. And I was like, I want to put her out by the bins. I did not
Make it stop.
think this through. And that is a really normal feeling. It took me years before I actually felt like I could say that out loud. God, I wish somebody had said, it's all right if it's a bit shit. You know, it's fine. You're allowed to feel like this isn't all great. Give permission for women to go, I'm struggling, this is hard. Because there's never been a generation of women that haven't found it difficult.
No, they just didn't have the platforms to voice it.
Didn't have the platforms, or, you know, they coped in other ways. And I think it's really important that we recognise it is hard.
Why do you think it's so deeply ingrained in us to feel guilty for wanting a bit of space, wanting a bit of time, wanting things to be slightly different? Mum guilt.
I think it's less mum guilt and more mum shame. It's Brené Brown who said this, and it stayed with me forever. She's like, guilt is I've done a bad thing. Shame is I am a bad thing. Guilt is great. We need guilt. Guilt's a positive thing. I mean, it doesn't feel great, but it's a clear sign that you might have messed up and you need to go and fix it, right? You can use guilt. Shame is absolutely useless. Shame is something that is, I am a bad thing for no good reason whatsoever. It's completely beating ourselves up. And I think that shame comes from, again, this idea that motherhood is sort of the ultimate identity of every woman, that it's so the most natural thing in the world. And therefore, why would you ever want a break from it? Let's be honest. That is also a really clever way for the patriarchy to keep us in charge of all the stuff they don't really want to do, like childcare and, you know, the laundry and all of that. And I don't think there's men that are like consciously, there are obviously some men who are consciously pushing that, but most of the men, we married good men generally, right? So they're not consciously pushing that, but I think that's where it comes from. And they use this sort of shame, you don't want to be a mother today, to make you go, oh no, okay, I'll keep doing it.
That's great. I love
it's fun. No, I love it. It's great.
I'm so happy.
I think we're a little bit guilty of waiting for somebody to take that away from us. And actually we need to go, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to feel it. I'm not going to like lean into it. I'm going to go to my husband and say, I'm not doing all right. I need more time. And that is not me being a bad mum. That is me genuinely going, I'm struggling. And we need to work out where my time is and where your time is. And that is sacrosanct. And there's no messing around with that. because it is not okay that I am burning out and that I'm sat in the bathroom crying. It's not okay. We have to take responsibility for rejecting that shame.
It's something that you've done for a while now.
Yeah.
It's something that you've advocated for. And do you think that it gets easier to now just have this, like, we're going to have a quick check-in?
Yeah.
Or like, this big thing's coming up for me, so what can you do to help? Or like, this is what I need. The first time, was it this big...
Oh, well, listen, the first time was me sitting down saying, so we're separating, and I've rented a flat down the road so that when I'm with the kids, I'm in the house, you're there, and then we'll swap. Like, and he was like, hang on a minute, what? We're doing what? I was like, we're going to separate. And he was like, what? I'm sorry? We ended up going to couples therapy, working really, really hard. That was miserable. And that has given us tools to really make sure that we are comfortable checking in. So yes, it does get a lot easier. But also, if you're a woman who's got in a relationship with a man and you're going to that person and saying, I'm really struggling, I'm not okay, and that person isn't making space for you to have a conversation about that, then there are bigger things going on. I'm not saying it's necessarily the wrong relationship at all, but what I'm saying is I do think that we need to recognize that your relationship has to be in a good place for this stuff to work. And we had to go through almost divorce, thousands of hours and pounds worth of couples therapy, really difficult conversations and periods of time. I was an addict. Thank God I got into recovery. I'm now 4.5 years clean and sober. And my recovery program really helps support communication. So whenever my husband and I have a fight, we'll both go, okay, I'm really sorry I approached that badly, or I got that completely wrong. And we know that we have to take responsibility for our part in it. Because as soon as we go, you did this, you did that, we've lost. Whereas if I go, I felt like this and then I did this and it was the wrong way to handle it, or I misunderstood. It's not easy. Don't get me wrong. Like, I hate apologizing to my husband so much. Like, it is literally the worst thing. I can apologize to my kids. I can apologize to the stranger who I snapped at. I can apologize to, even my parents. But to apologize to my husband, I have to like call my sponsor. I have to carb load. I have to stretch. I have to do a meditation. Like, I hate it, but I do it because it is the single best thing that we can do for our relationship. And I'm also lucky that I can trust that he'll do the same thing. He's much better at it than me. I don't think I've ever really apologized first, maybe once or twice, but generally it's him. And, it's progress, not perfection.
Exactly.
It is something that you both have to really work at and almost just shut the door to your home and forget about what's going on outside. Just go, what is going to work for us? There is no perfect parent. So if you're expecting me to mum in a certain way, we need to be clear on what those expectations are, because it may be that I can't do that. And so we need to figure it out. And that was really clear for me, that Jimmy had expectations of me as a mum that I wasn't capable of, which was, he sort of assumed that I would be this very earthy mother. I don't know where he got that from, but, and that's not me.
I feel like we all think we're the earth mum till we're a mum.
Yeah, I think we all want to be. It's like we want to be a gentle parent until we're actually a mum. And then I'm like...
Until we're having to drag them out of Tesco's from a tantrum.
Yeah. I've always said I'll gentle parent with my children, gentle children. Until then, we're going to... Survive. Work on optimism and coffee.
Do you feel like you've got to a point in parenthood where you can carve out a bit of rest and relaxation time?
It is a non-negotiable. And... Again, this comes from...
Club Med isn't just a holiday. It's where your family discovers something new every day. World-class resorts, unlimited activities, and everything all-inclusive. So the whole family is happy from sunrise to sunset. Your next great family adventure starts at clubmed.co.uk.
Having done so much work with my husband, that there is no question that that's not a non-negotiable. It doesn't always work out, and we're not perfect. It doesn't mean that, he's like, oh my God, stop, you're like 5 minutes late for your massage, go. Like, it's not that. We're not doing that. But we do have, in the morning when he's home, we'll have like a little morning meeting over our coffee where I'm like, this is what I expect my day to look like. And he'll be like, this is what I expect my day to look. And hopefully that works. But if it doesn't, then we'll have that conversation then, because we always say an expectation is a resentment waiting to happen. So like, if I'm expecting something and that he doesn't deliver, I'm annoyed. And actually, it's not really his fault. It's not really my fault, but somewhere along the line, the communication hasn't been great. We've got to a point where we realise that it's really important. I also want to say our kids are older. So it's easier as the kind of logistical pressure of parenting eases a bit as they get older. But yeah, I'm really comfortable with it. And I'm a better parent, wife. I mean, I'm just a nicer person, which I think is reasonable. Like, when I feel like I'm being put upon and nobody cares and nobody appreciates it, I'm not my best self. I'm going to start slamming doors and screaming at people and snapping. That's normal human behavior when you feel completely underappreciated and unseen and unsupported. So you do need space. And also, why is it so weird to go, I don't actually want to be with my children all the time?
I don't know. And it makes me wonder, did I ever hear my own mother or her friends speaking like this? I don't know that I did, but I guess these were probably the conversations they were having.
Yeah, I think they probably
with their girlfriends
were
behind closed doors.
Yeah, I hope they were. Like, at the very least, I hope they recognise it. My fear is that actually a lot of women probably didn't even feel that they could talk about it with their girlfriends of our parents' generation. And, you know, I look back on my mum from this perspective with a very different viewpoint as I did when I was a child being mothered by her. There's a lot of compassion now that goes towards my mum. And I think that that's really helped me not just forgive her for a lot of the stuff that I thought she was responsible for, but also forgive myself for some of the parenting mistakes that I've made as well. And the times that I've let myself or my kids or my husband down. You know, we are all really human, and we do come with baggage and trauma and mental health issues and neurodiversities that perhaps weren't, you know, diagnosed, all of this stuff. There is no one size fits all for what a mum looks like, what a dad looks like, what a family looks like, what the mental load looks like. But I also don't think we're encouraged enough to, or given the confidence enough to make it the way we need it to look for our family.
It feels like we're in this kind of juxtaposition of society now where you've got the mothers who are the earth mums and they lean in and they're doing the crafts and they're telling you how you can be more present and how you can use less screens. And then there's the other mums who are like, I'm struggling, it's too much, men don't do enough. And so, like, where do we sit in the middle where we're like, I love my kids, I'm so present with them, I don't really like screens either, but I still struggle with my husband or my partner or my girlfriend.
And that's the reality of it.
You know,
even the Earth Mother's feeling. Even the Earth Mother's feeling some of that too.
At some point.
How many different versions of dads do we get? None. Do you know what I mean? We don't get like the Earth dad, the working dad.
No.
Nobody says I'm a working dad. If I leave the house, first question people say is, oh, who's got the kids? My husband steps on a tour bus for 6 weeks. Nobody says to him, oh, who's got the kids? You know,
what's their schedule for the next 6 weeks, day in, day out?
Yeah, exactly. How are you managing this? The questions aren't there, and the expectations of mothers, I just think it always stems from this like divide and conquer. Let's not, because how terrifying would we be if we were all actually on the same side? We were all on the same side, and the patriarchy wasn't dividing us up and going, oh, you're an earth mother and you're a working mum and you're like a helicopter parent.
And you're a stay-at-home mum.
And you're a stay-at-home mum.
So all you do is lunch.
Right, exactly. You don't work. How powerful would we be? That is what really grinds my gears. I just want us all to go, I actually don't care how you mum, and I don't care what you think of my mumming. Like, our kids are fine. Let's just stop fighting between us and comparing ourselves. And let's get on with actually just day to day showing how fucking incredible we are and getting that respect and using that to get what we need out of this situation, because we're just not. It's baffling that we're still having these conversations. And if we're not having these conversations, then what are we plotting? I want to do more plotting. But we don't have time because we're too busy bitching and moaning between each other and criticising, comparing. I want the time to start plotting.
Yeah, big things, big goals. That leads me on to my last question, which is what's coming up next for you?
I have had such a mental year with like the book and the podcast that I'm quite looking forward to just having a year where actually I'm just making content that resonates, that comforts, that makes women feel a bit seen and heard, and not really doing much else. Like, I know a lot of people sort of think content creating, and I'm going to use the word even though I hate it, influencing, isn't a job.
It's a full-time job.
I mean, it is a full-time job.
And also, but it's so time-consuming.
But I really love it when it resonates with people, and I see that it resonates, and they tell me. They take time to send a message going, cannot believe you've said that's really helped me. Listen, I'm not under any illusion. I'm not saving lives. I'm not winning any Nobel Peace Prizes. Like, I am very aware of my kind of very small, completely incidental role in the world. But if this is what I get to do, I really love doing it, and I love making people laugh. So this year is all about just content. I do have a novel coming out next year, which is really exciting. And between now and then, I'm just going to make women laugh.
Where can people find you?
At Not So Smug Now on TikTok, Instagram. I also have a Substack under the same name, Not So Smug Now. Yeah, anywhere and everywhere, really. You know, I've never met a platform that I don't love.
We'll put all your handles in the
Thank
description
you.
below. Thank you so much for
Thanks,
your
darling,
time.
for having
and yeah, I implore everyone to go and read the book because you are a font of wisdom and knowledge. Thank you so much.
Thanks, darling.